I'm going to ask you to do something that will feel physically painful. For the next 7 days, I want you to wake up and spend your first 90 minutes on one thing. Not your inbox, not research, not planning your next move. One skill, one task. Repeat it until your brain starts to ache from the monotony. Most of you won't make it past day 3. And that's the entire point. Because here's what nobody tells you about mastery. Your brain doesn't reward the person who's multi-passionate. It rewards the person who can endure being crushingly bored with the same task over and over until something biological happens that separates you from everyone else. Today, I'm going to show you what that something is. Think of your brain as a highway system. Right now, most of your neural pathways are dirt roads, slow, inefficient. Every time you try to execute a skill, whether it's playing an instrument, writing code, or speaking a second language, the signal has to bump along this rough terrain. But here's what changes everything. When you repeat the same task intensely and consistently, your brain sends out construction crews. These crews wrap your neurons in a substance called myelin. It's a fatty insulation that coats the axons, the wires that carry electrical signals between brain cells. Myelin turns your dirt road into a glass highway. Signals that used to crawl now race. Your movements become precise. Your thoughts flow faster. This is called activity-dependent myelination, and it only happens under one condition. You have to fire the same neural circuit repeatedly. Not occasionally, not when you feel inspired, repeatedly. Here's the brutal part. Your brain has a limited myelin budget. Imagine you're trying to master 5 different skills at once: piano, Spanish, photography, coding, marketing. You're spreading your practice time across all 5. That means each neural pathway gets maybe 20% of the repetitions it needs to structurally change. 20% insulation, 80% dirt road. Now imagine you pick one. Just one. Every repetition, every focused hour, every moment of deliberate practice hammers the same circuit. That pathway gets 100% of your myelin budget, 100% insulation. This is why the person who commits to boring always beats the person who stays interested in everything. Biology doesn't care how many things you like. It only cares how many times you repeat the same thing. Wait, it gets crazier. Because the real enemy isn't that you're trying to learn too many things. The real enemy is that you've trained your brain to need novelty. Every time you switch tasks, your brain leaves behind what researchers call attention residue. Think of it like this. You're working on a design project, deep in flow. Then you check Slack. Just for a second. One message. You return to your design, but part of your brain is still in that conversation. It's trying to tie up loose ends, wondering if you should respond, replaying what was said. That residue sits there, invisible, draining your capacity for deep work. And here's the trap. The more you switch, the more your brain expects switching. You've essentially trained yourself to find sustained focus painful. This is what most people call being multi-passionate. But let me reframe that for you. Multi-passionate is often code for never staying with one thing long enough for your brain to rewire. Every new project feels exciting because novelty triggers dopamine. Your brain lights up. You feel productive. But you're not building highways. You're laying down gravel on a dozen different roads that will never get paved. Meanwhile, the person who picks one obsession and sticks with it, they're experiencing something completely different. At first, yes, it's boring. The repetitions feel mechanical. There's no novelty, no dopamine hit from exploring something new. But after weeks of hammering the same circuit, something shifts. The task that used to require enormous mental effort starts to feel smoother, almost automatic. That's because the myelin is kicking in. Signals travel faster, coordination improves. What was once painful begins to feel like flow. And that's when mastery starts to compound. But you never get there if you keep chasing the dopamine of something new. Now, you might be thinking, okay, I get it. Focus on one thing, but how do I practice in a way that actually builds myelin? Great question. Because not all practice is created equal. Let me tell you about Anders Ericsson's violin study. Ericsson wanted to know what separated elite violinists from average ones, so he tracked their practice habits. And what he found was shocking. It wasn't about how much they practiced. The elite players did something different. They didn't run through entire pieces for fun. They isolated the hardest 3-second transitions, the exact moments where their fingers would fumble, and drilled those segments in silence, over and over, with full concentration, fixing micro errors, adjusting technique. This is what Ericsson called deliberate practice. It's structured, it has clear goals, it focuses on weaknesses, not strengths, and it requires intense mental effort, the kind that makes your brain ache. Here's the key line from Ericsson's work. The right kind of practice is not a matter of hours, it's practice that represents the utmost concentration of the brain. Read that again. Utmost concentration. Most people think they're practicing when they're really just performing, running through what they already know, staying comfortable. But your brain doesn't lay down myelin when you're comfortable. It lays down myelin when you're struggling, when you're forcing a circuit to fire repeatedly under load. That's why elite athletes drill the same footwork pattern until it's burned into muscle memory. That's why top musicians isolate brutal 2-bar phrases and repeat them 50 times. That's why coders rewrite the same algorithm from scratch until they can do it in their sleep. They're not being obsessive. They're being biological. Because myelin doesn't wrap around general effort. It wraps around specific, repeated, high-intensity activation of the exact circuit you're trying to master. So here's the uncomfortable truth you need to hear. If you want to be exceptional at something, you have to give up being good at everything else. At least for now. Cal Newport said it best. To produce at your peak level, you need to work for extended periods with full concentration on a single task free from distraction. Not some distraction, not mostly focused with Slack open. Free from distraction. And here's the part nobody likes. You have to train this ability like a muscle. Because right now, your brain is dependent on distraction. It expects novelty. It craves the dopamine hit of something new every 15 minutes. That dependency is the wall standing between you and mastery. So here's your challenge, the one I opened with. For 7 days, your first 90 to 120 minutes go to one skill, one task. No inbox, no planning, no research rabbit holes. Just the repetitions that thicken the same circuit every single day. You're going to hate it on day 2. Your brain will scream for novelty. You'll feel restless. You'll convince yourself that this one email is urgent or that you need to quickly check something. Don't. Sit in the discomfort. Let your brain rewire. Let the myelin crews get to work. Because by day 5 or 6, something will shift. The task will start to feel less painful. Your focus will deepen. You'll catch yourself entering flow without effort. That's not motivation. That's biology. Your circuits are finally getting insulated. Mastery isn't about talent. It's not about passion. It's about being willing to do the same boring thing every day while everyone else chases the next shiny object. Your brain rewards habits, not hobbies. So pick one thing. Commit to the boredom. And watch what happens when you finally give your neurons permission to build a highway. 7 days. 90 minutes. One skill, start tomorrow. So that's my take. What's yours? Drop a comment. I actually read them. And if this challenged how you think about this topic, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe if you want more like this.